Under the vaulted ceilings of the grand Ritz-Carlton ballroom, guests whispered in anticipation. A hush fell as the groom, the wealthy and charismatic Liam Davenport, stepped out in a perfectly tailored Armani tuxedo. This was meant to be the happiest day of his life, the moment he would say "I do" to his new bride, the radiant Maria. Yet, as Liam glanced across the crowded rows of well-wishers, a flicker of something dark crossed his face. He froze. There, half hidden behind a lavish centerpiece, stood Vanessa Caldwell, his ex-wife, the one woman he never thought he'd see again. In that instant, everything changed. Liam Davenport had not always been the man standing in a luxurious ballroom flanked by the upper crust of New York society. Years ago, he was just an ambitious kid from a rundown neighborhood, dreaming of skyscrapers and star-studded galas while struggling to pay rent in a cramped studio apartment. He labored through college, juggling 2 part-time jobs, losing sleep over final exams and loan payments. But what he lacked in privilege, he made up for in determination. He told himself over and over again that he would become someone important, someone who could buy his way out of the life he'd been born into. His journey to fortune began with a single bright idea, a tech startup specializing in artificial intelligence solutions for major corporations. After countless rejections, he finally secured a meeting with a venture capitalist named Gerald Lockwood, who saw a spark in Liam. With Lockwood's seed funding, Liam's company Davenport Innovations slowly began to grow. Bit by bit, code by code, pitch by pitch, Liam carved out a place for himself in the competitive world of tech entrepreneurship. Through grit and a smattering of luck, he negotiated contracts with household names like Apple and Tesla, forging a path that catapulted him to millionaire status before he turned 30. Despite the obstacles, Liam pressed on. He had formed alliances in boardrooms and learned how to cultivate an aura of confidence. Yet, there was something missing from his life, true companionship, or so he believed until he met Vanessa Caldwell. Vanessa Caldwell was a force of nature, witty, passionate, and brimming with a creative energy that sparkled in her hazel eyes. She too came from humble beginnings, but her ambitions had led her down a different path. Whereas Liam poured himself into technology, Vanessa pursued art. She sold handmade jewelry, exhibited her paintings in small galleries, and took freelance graphic design gigs whenever she could find them. She never had the same stable trajectory as Liam did in his corporate world, but she believed in the power of self-expression more than the lure of a guaranteed paycheck. They crossed paths at a charity gala for the American Cancer Society held at the Marriott Marquis. Liam had been there to schmooze with potential investors. Vanessa had been invited to showcase a series of abstract paintings she'd donated to raise funds. Liam found himself captivated by her work, and then by the artist herself. With a glass of champagne in hand, he approached her, struck up a conversation, and felt a jolt of electricity he had never experienced before. Her conversation was unguarded, almost childlike in its sincerity. She spoke of her art as a reflection of the world's flaws and wonders, unafraid to show her emotions. By the end of the night, he knew he had to see her again. It wasn't just attraction, there was an unspoken depth that drew him in. In Vanessa, Liam found someone who embraced life's chaos, exactly what he had never allowed himself to do. Their courtship was a whirlwind. Despite the fact that their worlds barely intersected, Liam spent his days in sleek boardrooms. Vanessa lost herself in paint-splattered studios. They found common ground in their shared hunger for success, albeit defined differently. Liam wanted the financial security he had never known, while Vanessa longed for creative freedom and acclaim in the art world. While Liam was finalizing deals with big corporations, Vanessa was shipping her jewelry orders or setting up an exhibition in a modest neighborhood gallery. When Liam gave corporate presentations in glossy conference halls, Vanessa poured her soul into her next painting. They were polar opposites, yet they fueled each other's passions. Liam sponsored her creative endeavors whenever she ran out of funds. Vanessa, for her part, kept Liam balanced, reminding him there was life outside spreadsheets and investor calls. Within a year, they were deeply in love, convinced that their differences not only attracted, but strengthened them. One balmy summer night, after a romantic dinner at a waterfront restaurant overlooking the Hudson, Liam proposed. He knelt down on one knee, a modest ring in hand. He hadn't yet reached his seven-figure fortune, and asked her to be his partner in every sense. Vanessa, tears in her eyes, said yes. They married quietly at City Hall, with only a handful of friends and family present, promising one another that though the wedding was small, their love was colossal. But life had a way of testing them, and soon cracks would start to form. When Davenport innovations soared into the market spotlight, Liam's life changed almost overnight. The modest ring he'd given Vanessa became a symbol of nostalgia, as he could now afford the finest diamonds in any Tiffany and Company display case. Newspapers hailed him as a rising tech mogul, and people who'd once ignored him were suddenly lining up to do business. As the money flowed, so did the pressures. Shareholders demanded exponential growth, and employees looked to Liam for visionary leadership. Vanessa watched, at first with awe and then with apprehension. She was proud of Liam's accomplishments, yet she felt him slipping away. The raucous dinner parties, the high-stakes deals, the hours upon hours spent in strategy meetings, these consumed more and more of his time. Vanessa missed the version of Liam who would ramble about his day in that tiny studio apartment, who found joy in the simplest pleasures. Now, their marital conversations revolved around revenue forecasts, product launches, and what it meant for their future. She tried to be supportive, but felt like an accessory to Liam's success rather than a true partner. Simultaneously, she struggled to find her footing in the art world. Despite Liam's financial support, her sales plateaued, and she found herself wrestling with creative blocks. She wanted to establish a name based on her own merit, not because she was Mrs. Davenport. The tension built quietly at first, hidden under polite smiles and late-night discussions. But each missed dinner and each cancelled weekend getaway became a stepping stone to conflict. The turning point arrived during a prestigious art fair in Miami, where Vanessa was supposed to unveil her newest collection. Initially, Liam had promised to be there, saying he'd clear his schedule for the event. Vanessa was nervous, as this fair was her chance to connect with influential gallery owners. For weeks, she had poured her heart into a series of mixed media paintings that she believed showcased her growth as an artist. But when the big day came, Liam was nowhere in sight. Vanessa's calls went straight to voicemail. Crowds circulated through the convention center, admiring her booth, but she felt emptier with every hour that passed without Liam's presence. Finally, late in the afternoon, she received a text. "Sorry, love. Board meeting emergency. Will explain later." Though she plastered on a professional smile and tried to salvage the night, resentment brewed in her heart. By the time Liam arrived, the next morning, expensive coffee in hand and apology on his lips, Vanessa was inconsolable. She accused him of prioritizing money and fame over their relationship, of reducing her art to a sideline hobby. Liam, already stressed from negotiating a massive contract, lashed out in return. He claimed that he was doing all this for them, so they could have a secure future. It was their first big fight, and the tension crackled in the quiet hotel suite. Though they tried to patch things up, the sting of that disappointment never fully went away. A wedge had been driven between them. In the months following Miami, the gap between Liam and Vanessa only widened. They put on smiles for public appearances, charity galas, business dinners, and society soirees at the Metropolitan Museum, but behind closed doors, arguments erupted more frequently. Liam blamed Vanessa for not understanding the pressure he was under. She blamed him for forgetting why they fell in love in the first place. Vanessa, seeking validation, threw herself into bigger and bolder artistic projects. She organized a solo exhibition at a high-end gallery near Fifth Avenue. Buoyed by her connections and Liam's silent financial backing, the opening night drew a crowd, though many were there more for the novelty of a millionaire's wife dabbling in art than for genuine appreciation. Still, the show earned enough critical praise that Vanessa felt a resurgence of confidence. Yet, the night ended in another argument. Liam had arrived late again, this time with a potential investor from Silicon Valley in tow. He whispered promises about how the investor could help turn her artistic vision into a lucrative brand, perhaps even cross-promoting with Davenport Innovations. Vanessa's frustration boiled over. Couldn't Liam see that art wasn't just another product to monetize? They returned home to a dark penthouse, each going to separate rooms. In the cold quiet of midnight, Liam realized they rarely even shared a bed anymore, and in her lonely, paint-smelling studio, Vanessa stared at her half-finished canvas, wondering if this was a dream turned nightmare. Eventually, the fractures in their marriage became too large to ignore. They attempted therapy, meeting once a week in a small, softly lit office with a kindly psychologist named Dr. Stein. In those sessions, Liam admitted to feeling burdened by the demands of his expanding empire. Vanessa confessed to feeling overshadowed and suffocated. For a brief moment, the vulnerability they shared was reminiscent of the early days when they were just two dreamers in love. However, therapy sessions also unearth harsh truths. Dr. Stein questioned whether Liam's relentless pursuit of wealth was filling a void that love and self-acceptance should fill. She wondered if Vanessa's need for validation in the art world went beyond mere ambition, perhaps. It was also a desire to step out from Liam's long shadow. Although the psychologist's insights were compassionate, they exposed raw wounds each was reluctant to heal. In between therapy appointments, Liam closed a lucrative deal that set Davenport Innovations on a path to go public. The excitement in the office was electric. Cameras flashed, and business reporters from publications like Forbes and Bloomberg clamored for interviews. Vanessa watched the coverage from home, feeling like a spectator in her own marriage. As she listened to Liam's confident voice praising his team and vision, she realized she was no longer sure where she fit into his life. By the time the therapy sessions ended, they were both uncertain whether love alone could bridge the chasm that had formed. Their divorce was not a messy tabloid spectacle. Liam's legal team ensured it was kept discreet. Vanessa, battered emotionally, insisted she wanted nothing more than her freedom. In a final act of attempted goodwill, Liam offered her a generous settlement. At first, she balked, determined to stand on her own. But practicality intervened, and she accepted a sum that allowed her to continue her art without financial strain, at least for a while. They parted ways with a heavy awkwardness, like two strangers who once knew each other intimately, but now had no clear path forward. Liam poured his heartbreak into work. The public announcement of his divorce sparked mild curiosity in business circles, but soon the focus shifted back to his meteoric rise. Davenport Innovations became a household name in tech, signing new contracts and unveiling cutting-edge AI projects for Fortune 500 companies. On social media, Liam's success was portrayed as unstoppable. He was the man who seemingly lost love but gained the world. Meanwhile, Vanessa quietly retreated from the city's high society. She moved to a smaller loft in a less flashy neighborhood, determined to rediscover her artistic voice. While she felt a pang whenever she passed Liam's face on a billboard or read another article about his accomplishments, She tried to channel that pain into her art. She vowed never to step foot in his life again until fate brought her face to face with him at his next wedding. In the interim years, Liam's fame grew, but so did his cynicism about love. He filled his days with meetings, networking events, and the occasional high-profile fling that the tabloids gossiped about. Yet, he found himself emotionally distant. No one sparked the same depth of connection he once felt with Vanessa. Then, one afternoon, while attending a corporate summit in Silicon Valley, he met Maria Perez. She was a brilliant software engineer, educated at MIT, whose startup specialized in robotics for medical applications. They collided literally during a coffee break, each juggling phone calls and stacks of paperwork. Amid the spilled latte and scattered documents, they locked eyes and broke into genuine laughter. Maria's intelligence and drive immediately attracted Liam. Here was a woman who understood the demands of tech entrepreneurship and didn't resent his ambitious nature. They bonded over coding languages, product pitches, and the frustration of constantly chasing the next innovation. Over late-night brainstorming sessions, a deeper affection blossomed. Unlike his relationship with Vanessa, this connection felt more controlled, more aligned with Liam's world. When they eventually became romantically involved, it seemed almost seamless. Their families approved, especially Maria's parents, who saw Liam as a brilliant and stable match. Before long, the idea of marriage was on the table. And so, after months of planning, they set their wedding date at the Ritz-Carlton in New York, an event slated to be as grand as Liam's reputation demanded. The morning of the wedding dawned in a haze of excitement and nerves. Maria prepared in the penthouse suite, surrounded by her bridesmaids. Champagne flowed freely, laughter echoing across plush carpets and gilded mirrors. Downstairs, in a separate suite, Liam adjusted his Armani bow tie for the 10th time, ignoring the pang of déjà vu that flickered through his mind when he recalled his simpler wedding to Vanessa. Life had changed so drastically since then. Reporters from high-profile magazines lingered in the lobby, hoping for snapshots of the bride and groom. Security was tight. Only those with invitations were allowed in. The decor was nothing short of majestic crystal chandeliers, floral arrangements from one of the city's most elite florists, and a towering wedding cake that practically grazed the ceiling. Every detail had been curated to reflect Liam's status and Maria's refined taste. As he waited behind the heavy velvet curtains, Liam's heart pounded with a mix of anticipation and anxiety. This should have been the pinnacle of his happiness, and yet a subtle undercurrent of doubt tugged at him. He reassured himself that this time everything would be different. Maria was the perfect partner for his ambitious life. The sacrifices he'd made, the lessons learned from his failed marriage, surely they would guide him now. Then the music began, heralding the bride's entrance, and Liam stepped into the opulent ballroom to take his place at the altar. The ceremony began like a dream. Maria glided down the aisle, radiant in a gown that sparkled with intricate beading and lace. Liam's closest friend, James Caldwell, no relation to Vanessa Caldwell, stood as his best man, offering moral support through the emotional weight of the day. Rows of distinguished guests, including CEOs, celebrities, and even a few political figures, filled the ornately decorated chairs. The officiant's voice carried with solemn grace, and for a few blissful moments, the entire world seemed to revolve around Liam and Maria. But then, as Liam looked out at the sea of faces, one face stood out. At first, he thought his eyes were playing tricks on him. He blinked, and it didn't vanish. Vanessa Caldwell, his ex-wife, stood near the back of the room, partially obscured by a grand floral centerpiece. Dressed in a subdued yet elegant cocktail dress, she appeared calm, her eyes fixed squarely on the proceedings. A chill raced up Liam's spine. What was she doing here? How had she even gotten in? His mind spiraled with questions. He nearly stumbled over his vows, prompting concerned glances from Maria. The officiant cleared his throat, and the guests shifted uncomfortably, unaware of the tension slicing through Liam's composure. He forced himself to continue, but the vision of Vanessa lingered, transforming the ceremony into a surreal tableau. He felt a pang deep in his chest, a painful reminder of a love that once was, overshadowing the love he hoped to seal today. Despite the initial shock, Liam managed to mutter his vows. Maria, noticing his hesitance, squeezed his hand reassuringly. The ceremony finished with scattered applause, though several people in the audience exchanged puzzled looks. Only a few recognized Vanessa. Those who did whispered among themselves. The moment the officiant pronounced them husband and wife, Liam leaned in to kiss Maria. Cameras flashed, capturing the supposedly perfect union, but all Liam could think about was the woman standing in the back. He was sure she had seen him falter. After the formalities, waiters in crisp suits ushered the guests into the adjoining ballroom for the reception. Liam intended to stay by Maria's side, greeting well-wishers and maintaining composure. Yet a magnetic pull dragged his attention toward the far corner of the room, where he spotted Vanessa quietly sipping champagne at a small table. His pulse thundered in his ears. He excused himself and made his way through the throng of socialites. When he finally reached Vanessa, she greeted him with a small, enigmatic smile. Up close, she looked more mature than he remembered, still the striking artist, but with an air of subdued calm. Gone was the youthful restlessness that once drew him in. He wanted to speak, to demand answers, but words caught in his throat. Vanessa broke the silence with a simple phrase, "Congratulations, Liam, you look happy." For a moment, all the noise and glamour of the reception faded, and Liam felt as though he and Vanessa were the only two people in the world. Her tone was measured, neither bitter nor overly friendly. He noticed faint lines around her eyes, the faintest trace of sadness. She offered him a polite smile, as if they were mere acquaintances rather than ex-spouses. "What are you doing here?" he finally asked, his voice low. She took another sip of champagne. "I was invited by your Aunt Clarice, actually. She kept in touch with me after the divorce." Vanessa paused, letting the words settle between them. "I didn't come to cause trouble. I came because..." She trailed off, looking at the glass as though it held the rest of her sentence. "Honestly, I just wanted to see you happy." Liam swallowed hard. Part of him was angry. He wished he'd been warned of her presence. Another part of him felt an odd gratitude. He flashed back to the day he'd signed the divorce papers, how he'd felt a heavy mixture of regret and relief. Now, that cocktail of emotions came rushing back tenfold. Before he could respond, Maria's gentle voice interrupted them. She stood beside him, radiant and worried. "Liam, is everything all right? Who is this?" The question hung in the air, a reminder that no matter how calm Vanessa appeared, her presence was anything but simple. Liam introduced Vanessa to Maria, choosing his words carefully. He had told Maria about his past marriage early in their relationship, but meeting his ex-wife at their wedding reception was a different scenario entirely. He noticed a flicker in Maria's eyes, surprise, then cautious curiosity. Vanessa, for her part, extended a hand politely and said, "You're beautiful, Maria. Congratulations to both of you." Maria, ever poised, accepted the handshake. An awkward silence followed. Guests milled around them, oblivious to the emotional tightrope. The trio was treading. Finally, Maria summoned her gracious demeanor. "Thank you for coming. You must have had quite a journey. Are you still painting?" Her attempt to ease the tension was palpable. Vanessa nodded. "I am. Now more than ever." She glanced at Liam, the ghost of a smile touching her lips. "I hear Davenport Innovations has taken the world by storm. Congratulations on all your success." Before Liam could respond, the wedding photographer appeared, urging them to pose for group photos. Maria apologized and led Liam away, a protective hand on his arm. As they walked, her whispered question was sharp with concern. "What's going on? Are you okay?" His mind swirled in chaos. He was a newlywed, expected to bask in the glow of this moment, yet all he could think of was the memories flooding back when he looked into Vanessa's eyes. "I'm fine," he lied, forcing a smile. "We'll talk later." The evening wore on in a haze of toasts and dancing. Liam tried to focus on Maria, to soak in the beauty of their wedding day. Well-wishers came in droves, offering congratulations and toasting to the future. He laughed at jokes he barely heard, nodded through compliments he hardly registered. All the while, in the corner of his eye, he caught glimpses of Vanessa, quietly conversing with distant relatives or standing alone, lost in thought. Maria sensed his distraction. She cornered him by the chocolate fountain after the cutting of the cake, where they were momentarily out of earshot. "I know this is a big day," she said, "and seeing Vanessa must be complicated. But I need to know that you're here with me fully." He felt a pang of guilt. Maria was everything he admired: smart, loving, able to stand confidently beside him in the world he'd built. "I'm here," he insisted, cupping her cheek. "I'm just unsettled. She caught me off guard, that's all." His new wife studied his face with a searching gaze. "All right, but promise me we'll talk about this soon. I don't want any ghosts lurking around us as we start this new chapter." He gave a reassuring nod, but deep inside, a storm brewed. Unresolved questions about Vanessa, why she had come, what she truly wanted, clouded his thoughts. In a few hours, Liam would say farewell to his guests and jet off on a lavish honeymoon. Yet he sensed that the real journey was just beginning. By the time Liam and Maria left the reception, Vanessa was gone. He felt a peculiar mix of relief and regret. The next morning, they departed for a 2-week honeymoon in Bora Bora, checking into a luxury resort complete with private overwater bungalows. Liam tried to let the tranquil waters and tropical breeze wash away his lingering worries, but in the quiet moments when Maria was asleep or lost in a book, he found himself replaying the wedding scene in his mind, the calm expression on Vanessa's face, her cryptic words about wanting to see him happy. Maria noticed his occasional distance. To counter it, she immersed them in activities: snorkeling trips, couples massages, romantic dinners under the stars. It was undeniably beautiful, a paradise of turquoise lagoons and coral reefs, yet a subtle tension underscored each day. Liam confided in her about the swirl of emotions Vanessa's presence had triggered. Maria listened, empathy blending with the slightest hint of jealousy. One evening, as they sat on the bungalow's deck, watching the sun sink below the horizon, Maria took his hand. "There's a reason your past is catching up to you now," she said softly. "Maybe it's time you find closure, or at least figure out what's still unresolved." Liam knew she was right. No matter how far he traveled or how much wealth he amassed, he couldn't outrun the guilt and questions. He still harbored about the marriage he let slip away. What, he wondered, was Vanessa's version of their story now? Upon returning from the honeymoon, Liam tried to bury himself in work, hoping the familiar rhythms of corporate life would drown out any lingering turmoil. He and Maria settled into a routine: morning workouts, hectic days at their respective offices, and quiet dinners discussing code, product launches, and strategic growth. But late one night, after a marathon board meeting, Liam found himself scrolling through social media when he stumbled onto a post featuring Vanessa. She was standing in a gallery with a triumphant smile, surrounded by what appeared to be her latest artwork. The caption read, "Vanessa Caldwell's new exhibition, a bold exploration of identity and rebirth." Curiosity gnawed at him. He clicked through more images, glimpsing paintings that vibrated with color and emotion. In one, A silhouette stood before a city skyline, half of it shimmering with gold, the other half cast in a somber grey. A wave of remorse washed over him, his mind racing with memories of her dreams, her struggles, and how he had failed to truly support her passion. In the end, his heart thudded. Perhaps the only way to find peace was to hear directly from her, to understand why she had come to his wedding unannounced. Was it simply closure, or did she have more to say? With a shaky breath, he opened his email and typed a short message to the gallery's public contact address. He asked for a private appointment to see Vanessa's work. He hesitated only for a moment before hitting send. 3 days later, Liam received a surprising reply, not from a gallery manager, but from Vanessa herself. She proposed a date and time to meet at the studio where she was putting the finishing touches on her exhibition. The note was formal, with no overt hostility or warmth. It simply stated fact. On a grey Saturday afternoon, Liam walked through an industrial part of the city he rarely visited these days, far from the skyscrapers and penthouses he now inhabited. The studio was tucked inside an old converted warehouse. Its massive windows let in the pale winter light, illuminating canvases stacked against walls and half-finished sculptures that took on abstract shapes. Vanessa greeted him in paint-splattered jeans and an oversized sweater, a far cry from the elegant dress she had worn at the wedding. She seemed in her element here, confident and focused, as though the swirling colors around her reflected her internal equilibrium. They exchanged polite pleasantries, an odd formality for two people who once shared a life. Then she led him through the space, showing him pieces from her new collection. She described their inspirations: pain, rebirth, an exploration of love, lost and found. Liam felt an emotional tug. He recognized fragments of their shared past in certain brushstrokes, as though she had transmuted old wounds into art. Finally, she turned to him. "So, Liam, what did you really want to see here? The paintings, or something else?" Liam drew in a long breath, glancing at the vibrant canvas before them, swirling reds and blues that seemed locked in an eternal dance. "I wanted to understand why you came to my wedding," he said gently, not wanting to shatter the fragile air of civility between them. Vanessa studied his face for a moment. "After everything ended, I drifted away from the life we built, but your Aunt Clarice stayed in touch. She visited my gallery shows, sent holiday cards. It was from her I learned about your engagement and the wedding date. When she offered me an invitation, I hesitated for a long time, but in the end, I decided to come because I needed to see for myself that you'd found the happiness we once chased." A wave of guilt and wistfulness coursed through him. "I never meant to hurt you," he whispered, his eyes tracing the shapes on the canvas. "Our marriage fell apart, and I take a lot of responsibility for that." Vanessa's expression softened. "We both did things wrong, Liam. I'm not blameless. I put so much pressure on you to be present, to balance your ambition with my insecurities. Maybe we were just too different. Or maybe we didn't fight hard enough when it mattered." Silence stretched between them, filled only by the faint hum of the studio's heating system. Liam suddenly realized how long it had been since they last spoke so honestly. They found themselves sitting on a worn, leather couch in the corner of the studio, sipping tea from mismatched mugs, as if they were old friends. Vanessa explained how she had navigated her own dark period after the divorce times, when she questioned her talent and her self-worth. But eventually, she discovered a new wellspring of creativity, catalyzed by heartbreak and the longing for independence. A local gallery owner took a keen interest in her new direction, and over the years, her reputation grew. She was now on the cusp of national recognition, with invitations to exhibit in major cities. "I'm proud of you," Liam said softly. He set his mug down, feeling an unexpected lump in his throat. "You've accomplished so much on your own terms." I always knew you had it in you. Vanessa smiled a small, sincere smile. Thank you. And you've built an empire, Liam. The world sees you as this tech visionary. I see you finally became the man you always dreamed of being. He nodded, though part of him felt uneasy. Yes, he had wealth and acclaim, but the cost had been monumental. I wanted to make something of myself. I didn't realize I'd lose the one person I thought would be by my side through it all. Her gaze drifted to the painting on the wall, two silhouettes reaching for each other, but never quite touching. That's life's irony, I suppose, she murmured. Their conversation shifted to the present, Liam's new marriage, Vanessa's upcoming exhibitions. They danced around the topic of regret, each too careful to lay blame on the other. Eventually, Liam noticed the time. Maria was waiting for him at home, and he had promised they'd have a quiet dinner. He couldn't help but feel a pang of conflict as he rose to leave. Before he reached the door, Vanessa called his name. When he turned, her eyes were earnest. I want you to be happy, truly. That's why I came to the wedding, not to haunt you. I needed to see that you'd found what we couldn't have. He gave a grateful nod, though the words felt heavy. Thank you. And I hope you find the happiness you deserve too. Their parting was marked by a gentle hug, the kind that signified a bridge between the past and the future. Walking out of the warehouse, Liam breathed in the cool air. It struck him that, for the first time in years, he and Vanessa had reached a point of mutual respect and closure. Yet, as he stepped into his luxury sedan, a thought nagged at him. Had he truly moved on? Or had he simply buried the pieces of his heart that once belonged to Vanessa? At home, Maria noticed a shift in Liam's demeanor. When he mentioned he had visited Vanessa, her eyes flickered with concern, but she measured her words carefully. I appreciate you telling me, she said over dinner, setting down her fork. I just hope you're doing it for the right reasons, that you're not looking to reopen old wounds. Liam squeezed her hand. I needed to talk to her, to make sense of why she showed up at our wedding. It's been a weight on my mind. But I'm not pining for the past, Maria. I promise you that. She stared at him for a moment, assessing his sincerity. I believe you. But please, remember that I'm here too. I want us to build a life together, without shadows and secrets. He nodded, feeling a wave of relief. Though he loved Maria and admired her independence, he was also aware that unresolved emotions could fester if left unspoken. He vowed to be open with her, to keep their lines of communication stronger than he had with Vanessa. Still, in the days that followed, an undercurrent of tension buzzed through the household. Liam threw himself into work, finalizing a major joint venture with a pharmaceutical company. Maria buried herself in software development projects, sometimes staying late at her office. They spoke politely, but the depth of their intimacy seemed to wane. Neither dared acknowledge the growing distance, each hoping it was a passing phase. One evening, Liam was preparing for a critical investor presentation when he received an alarming call from his lawyer. Davenport Innovations was being investigated for alleged patent infringements. A rival firm accused them of copying proprietary algorithms in their recent AI platform. If proven true, the lawsuit could cost millions and tarnish the company's spotless reputation. Panic clawed at Liam. He cancelled all social engagements, including a charity event he and Maria were scheduled to attend, and huddled with his legal team. He combed through patents, code repositories, and old contracts, trying to pinpoint any vulnerability. The stress mounted. His temper flared in meetings. He snapped at assistants who brought him coffee when he was expecting tea. Maria, alarmed by his sudden shift, tried to offer comfort, but Liam bristled, consumed by the crisis. Late one night, after an exhausting marathon session with lawyers, he returned home to find Maria waiting in the living room. You can talk to me about this, she said softly, patting the couch beside her. I'm not just your wife. I'm a software engineer who understands patents and intellectual property. Let me help. He rubbed his temples, feeling the tension behind his eyes. I appreciate that, but this is my mess to handle. I can't risk pulling you in if it gets ugly." Unwilling to argue, Maria gave him a pained nod, and they each went to bed in silence. As the lawsuit escalated, Liam found himself teetering on the edge of a public relations disaster. The media, previously enamored with his success story, began to question whether Davenport Innovations was a titan built on shaky ethics. Stocks wavered. Rumors circulated about possible government scrutiny. The pressure pressed down on Liam like an iron weight. During this storm, an unexpected message arrived. Vanessa emailed him, saying she'd heard about the controversy and asking if he was holding up. It was a simple note, devoid of melodrama, but it stirred something in him. In his bleakest moments, that small sign of concern felt like a lifeline. He responded with a cautious update, thanking her for checking in. Maria found the email exchange one night while using his laptop to finalize a project. It wasn't salacious, but the very existence of it, coupled with the tension already dividing them, was enough to spark confrontation. "Why are you still talking to her?" Maria demanded, her voice echoing in the penthouse. "I thought you said you were done looking to the past." "It's not like that," Liam insisted, raking a hand through his hair. "She reached out because she heard about the lawsuit. She's just worried. She's your ex-wife," Maria snapped, eyes blazing. "I'm the one who's supposed to be supporting you now, but you won't let me in. You shut me out of your problems and confide in her instead." The argument escalated, revealing the fractures in their new marriage. Trust was crumbling, and Liam could see no easy remedy. In the wake of that explosive confrontation, Liam and Maria barely spoke for days. The silence was deafening, echoing through the lavish penthouse like a cold, hollow wind. Each retreated into their own corner, Maria into her coding projects and late nights at the office, Liam into frantic strategizing with his legal team. Meanwhile, the lawsuit ramped up. Opposing counsel unearthed emails suggesting that one of Liam's lead developers might have taken code from a rival startup years ago during a transitional phase. Though the developer denied it, the accusations gained traction. Shareholders started grumbling about damage control, and even Gerald Lockwood, the venture capitalist who first believed in Liam, began to distance himself. Late one evening, Liam found Maria in the study, packing up her laptop. He hesitated in the doorway, guilt biting at him. "Maria," he began, voice low, "I'm sorry. This whole situation, my stress, my past, I know it's coming between us." She shut her eyes, shoulders trembling. "I wanted to be your partner in this crisis. Instead, I feel like a spectator. Worse, I feel replaceable. Don't you realize how that hurts?" Liam's breath caught. He stepped forward, placing a tentative hand on her shoulder. "You're not replaceable. I'm just used to fighting my battles alone. It's how I survived before. But I see now that I can't keep doing that, not if I want this marriage to work." Her expression softened, but the hurt lingered. "Show me," she whispered. "Don't just say it." Determined to salvage both his marriage and his company, Liam took action. He invited Maria to join his legal and executive team for a strategy session. Her expertise in coding and intellectual property law proved invaluable. She spotted discrepancies in the rival firm's claims, identifying a series of timestamps and unique code blocks that suggested Davenport Innovations hadn't directly infringed. The legal team pounced on the discovery, drafting counter-arguments that reframed the narrative. As the days wore on, Liam and Maria began to reconnect through their shared intellectual efforts. Late nights in conference rooms led to shared takeout meals and quiet moments of mutual respect. Liam marveled at her brilliance, realizing he had underestimated the value of having a partner who truly understood his world. Just as the tension around the lawsuit started to ease, a new storm brewed. Vanessa's latest gallery exhibition launched to critical acclaim, making headlines in the arts section of the New York Times. One of the centerpiece paintings, titled A Past Life, garnered particular attention. Critics described it as a haunting portrayal of two figures drifting apart against the backdrop of a towering cityscape, obviously inspired by her previous marriage. Tabloids picked up the story, weaving narratives about Liam's old flame re-emerging just as his new marriage faced scrutiny. One scurrilous rumor even alleged that Liam was financing Vanessa's show. Though both Liam and Vanessa denied it, the gossip mill churned, threatening to overshadow his fragile progress with Maria. With the lawsuit starting to tilt in his favor, Liam scheduled a press conference to address the scandal. He stood before a sea of cameras at Davenport Innovations headquarters, flanked by Maria and his lead counsel. Calmly and succinctly, they refuted the infringement claims, presenting evidence of original code and contrasting timelines. The performance was poised, and by its end, a sense of victory hovered in the air. Afterward, as reporters dispersed, Maria leaned in and kissed him softly on the cheek. "I'm proud of you," she whispered. For the first time in weeks, Liam felt hope coursing through him. Perhaps his world wasn't destined to crumble after all. That night, back at the penthouse, he prepared a simple home-cooked meal, something he hadn't done in years. Maria joined him in the kitchen, chopping vegetables while he stirred pasta sauce. Laughter replaced their usual tension. Even talk of Vanessa's painting and the media's incessant speculation faded into the background. Then, in the middle of dinner, Maria's phone buzzed. She checked the message, her face going pale. Handing the phone to Liam, she revealed a string of screenshots from an anonymous sender, claiming to have evidence that one of Liam's most trusted advisors, someone within his inner circle, had willingly given code to the rival firm to sabotage him. The final message read, "I can prove who's responsible if you meet me alone." The signature at the bottom shocked them both. It was Vanessa Caldwell. Liam's mind reeled. Why would Vanessa claim to have such information? Was this a hoax or a twisted game? Suspicion warred with the memory of their heartfelt talk in her studio. Could she truly be involved in a plot to take down Davenport Innovations, or was she trying to protect him from within? Maria's gaze burned with both anger and concern. "Are you going to meet her?" she asked. He hesitated. "I have to see what she knows. If someone on my team is betraying me, I need the proof." He swallowed hard, seeing the flicker of worry in Maria's eyes. "I'll keep you informed," he promised. "I'm not shutting you out again." The next day, Liam went to the address. Vanessa had provided a discreet cafe tucked away on a quiet street. She sat by the window, a folder on the table. When he approached, she slid it toward him wordlessly. Inside were documents, emails, and code fragments, suggesting one of his lead developers, an old friend named Felix Burton, had been exchanging proprietary information with the rival company for months. Liam's blood turned cold. Vanessa's eyes were calm but serious. "Felix approached me after our divorce, asking if I wanted to join a scheme to ruin you. I refused. But I kept these documents just in case he ever tried something. When I heard about the lawsuit, I suspected he was behind it." Stunned, Liam stared at the evidence. "Why are you giving me this?" he asked, voice trembling. "Because I meant it when I said I wanted you to be happy, to succeed," she replied. A tempest of emotions surged within Liam: gratitude, betrayal, disbelief. He had known Felix Burton since college. They'd worked late nights together, perfecting lines of code that shaped Davenport Innovations' early products. The idea that Felix could be the snake in the grass was almost unimaginable. He called his head of security and arranged a private meeting with Felix for the following day. Maria insisted on being there, standing by Liam's side as they waited in a glass-walled conference room. When Felix arrived, Liam laid out the evidence. At first, Felix denied everything, his face flushing with anger, but when confronted with explicit email chains bearing his name, he crumpled. Tears of frustration and regret spilled as he finally confessed. It started with small mistakes, Felix mumbled, head in his hands. They offered me money, more than I'd ever earn under you. I felt underappreciated, overshadowed by your success. Liam's fury threatened to erupt, but he kept it in check. You are my friend, he hissed. We built this together. How could you? Trembling, Felix apologized profusely, but the damage was done. Liam terminated him on the spot and informed his legal team. A wave of relief mingled with heartbreak. One crisis was averted, but the cost was yet another betrayal. And ironically, the person who saved him was the very woman he had once lost. The public unveiling of Felix's duplicity turned the tide of the lawsuit conclusively in Liam's favor. Davenport Innovations stabilized, its stock prices rebounded, and the scandal began to fade from media headlines. In a show of unity, Liam praised Maria's technical acumen and credited her with helping unravel the conspiracy. Internally, he knew Vanessa's role was equally crucial, but he respected her preference to remain unnamed. One evening, after the dust had mostly settled, Liam and Maria decided to throw a celebratory dinner for their core team. They booked a private room at a chic midtown restaurant, toasting the company's resilience. Amid the laughter and champagne, Liam found himself momentarily disengaged. He slipped out into the corridor, seeking fresh air. He was surprised to find Vanessa stepping off the elevator, escorted by Aunt Clarice. It appeared Clarice had invited Vanessa, wanting to acknowledge her part in exposing Felix's betrayal. Liam felt his pulse quicken. He walked up, uncertain how Maria would react, but determined not to hide anything. Maria joined them, her posture tense. Vanessa offered a polite smile. Congratulations, both of you. I'm happy this is resolved. Maria studied her, then extended a handshake. You saved Davenport Innovations, she said. I may not fully understand your motives, but I appreciate what you did. A flicker of relief passed across Vanessa's face. Liam, watching them, felt a knot in his chest unravel. In that moment, he realized they each carried scars, regrets, and hopes, and perhaps, at last, they could find a cautious but genuine respect for one another. The celebratory dinner ended with clinking glasses and heartfelt speeches. Maria and Liam drove home together, the city lights streaking past. For the first time in weeks, they slipped into easy conversation. The sense of unity they once feared, lost, now flickered back, revitalized by the trials they had weathered. At home, Maria settled on the couch, a playful grin tugging at her lips. You owe me a real honeymoon, she teased. Bora Bora was beautiful, but we never really had that time to relax. There was too much emotional baggage. Liam laughed, relief washing over him. You're right. How about a month in the Mediterranean after your next product launch? She leaned her head on his shoulder. Sounds perfect. As long as you promise to leave all your business calls behind. He wrapped an arm around her. Deal. In the quiet warmth of that moment, Liam thought about how far he'd come from a hungry dreamer to a self-made millionaire, from a broken marriage to a new relationship threatened by old ghosts. He marveled at how Vanessa had unexpectedly become an ally at a time when everything hung by a thread. The realization struck him that happiness was never a static destination, it was a state you fought for, shaped by every choice you made along the way. Over the following weeks, Liam's life returned to a semblance of balanced board meetings, strategic planning for new AI initiatives, and weekend getaways with Maria. They still had disagreements and stressful days, but a renewed openness kept them tethered. The ghosts of Liam's past no longer felt like looming specters, but rather lessons etched into his story. As for Vanessa, her art exhibition continued to garner praise, earning her a feature in a prominent gallery in Los Angeles. Liam watched from a distance, quietly proud. His only contact was a single text message. "Thank you for helping me find my way back to the light." She responded with a short note that spoke volumes. "Same here." Then, one morning, karma arrived in an unexpected form. Liam received a call from his financial advisor about a real estate investment that had gone awry. A development project he had half forgotten was mired in legal disputes, its valuation plummeting. Multiple investors were suing for negligence, placing him under intense scrutiny yet again. Maria was out of town on business, leaving Liam to face this alone. As he sifted through legal documents, a cold sweat beaded on his forehead. Even with all his success, he was not invincible. And here he was, battered by another potential financial scandal, hardly the perfect fairy tale of unstoppable success that the media loved to paint. Desperate for an external perspective, Liam reached out to Gerald Lockwood, the investor who had believed in him from the start. Over a terse phone call, Lockwood listened to Liam's predicament and offered a grim summary. "You took a high-risk gamble on that real estate venture. If it fails, you stand to lose a substantial chunk of your personal fortune. And if your name is tarnished enough, Davenport Innovations could suffer collateral damage." Liam felt his chest tighten. After surviving the patent lawsuit, this was the last thing he needed. Yet, in a moment of stark clarity, he recognized his pattern, chasing ambitious projects without fully assessing the cost or risk. Perhaps this, too, was part of the karmic rebalancing. He had built an empire, but each step had its consequences. With Maria still unavailable, Liam buried himself in contingency plans. He hired a new legal firm, thoroughly investigated the real estate project's finances, and reached out to co-investors. Pride prevented him from seeking help from Vanessa or anyone else outside his corporate sphere. This was his mess, and he intended to clean it up alone. Yet, as the days dragged on, Liam found himself wrestling with insomnia, migraines, and bouts of anxiety. For the first time in his adult life, he feared losing everything. He questioned if this was the universe's way of reminding him that success without humility and balance could come at a steep price. When Maria returned, she found a drained, haggard version of Liam poring over spreadsheets in his home office at 3 a.m. She flicked on the light, her expression registering shock. "Liam, what's happened? You look like you've been through a war," he explained the real estate fiasco, his voice hoarse from lack of sleep. Instead of scolding him for not calling her sooner, Maria simply knelt beside him, gently rubbing his shoulders. "We'll figure this out," she murmured. "You're not alone in this." Her quiet assurance unlocked something in Liam. He found himself confiding, not just about the current crisis, but about his deeper fears, fear of losing his identity. If he lost his fortune, fear that his relentless ambition might sabotage him again. Maria listened, never pulling away. When he finished, tears stained his cheeks. "I love you," she said simply. "Your net worth doesn't define who you are. You'll always find a way, Liam, because that's what you do. But let me be there with you this time." In that moment, he realized he didn't have to shoulder his burdens alone. And so, with Maria's help, he mapped out a plan. They sought alternative investors, renegotiated terms, and liquidated smaller assets. It was painful, like amputating limbs, to save the body, but it prevented total collapse. A month later, the storm began to subside. The real estate project was salvaged through a complex restructuring, and although Liam lost a significant portion of his personal investment, he avoided bankruptcy or criminal allegations. Davenport Innovations emerged relatively unscathed. Its board relieved the fiasco hadn't consumed the entire enterprise. Weary yet relieved, Liam and Maria took a short trip to the countryside to breathe and reconnect. Strolling along a tranquil lake at sunset, they held hands in the golden light. "I never want us to become strangers," Maria said, her voice soft but resolute. "I've seen how secrets and walls can destroy something beautiful. Promise me we'll always find our way back to each other." Liam pulled her in for a gentle kiss. "I promise. We've come too far to let anything tear us apart now." They paused at the water's edge, watching ripples fan out from a small pebble Maria tossed. Liam thought about how fleeting success could be, how one's empire could crumble under the weight of a single scandal or betrayal. Yet he also realized that love, a strong, communicative love, had the power to endure far more than he once believed. At that serene moment, he felt a sense of gratitude, not just for Maria, but also for the hard lessons life had taught him along the way. Upon their return to the city, Liam discovered a package waiting for him in the mailroom of his penthouse building. Inside was a small painting from Vanessa, an abstract swirl of bright blues and yellows, punctuated by streaks of hopeful green. Attached was a note, "For your new chapter, VC." He showed it to Maria, who studied it thoughtfully before breaking into a smile. "It's beautiful," she said, leaning against him. "What will you do with it?" Without hesitation, Liam replied, "I'm going to hang it in my office at Davenport Innovations." There was no shame in acknowledging where he'd come from or the people who had shaped his journey, even if some memories were painful. Over the next few weeks, that painting became a conversation starter among colleagues and visitors. Some recognized Vanessa's style, others asked about the story behind it. Liam spoke openly, albeit briefly, about his past, surprising himself with how comfortable he felt. There was no longer a need to hide his history or resent it. In the quiet hours after the workday, he would sometimes catch himself gazing at the swirls of color, reminded that life was messy and vibrant, a tapestry of triumphs and scars. And in that acceptance, he found something far more precious than mere success. He found peace. Time rolled on, and both Liam and Maria delved deeper into their careers, forging partnerships that spanned the tech and medical industries. Their marriage matured, built on mutual respect and lessons from past mistakes. Although challenges still cropped up, a disappointing product launch here, a heated argument there, they approached them as a team. Vanessa's star rose in the art world. She embarked on a nationwide tour, her name appearing in cultural magazines and even on late-night talk shows. Occasionally, Liam would catch a snippet of her interview. She spoke with confidence about transformation, how heartbreak and adversity could fuel creativity. If their paths crossed again at a charity event or an art opening, they'd share a brief conversation, cordial and unburdened by the baggage that once existed. Maria, for her part, came to appreciate Vanessa's artistic genius, even purchasing a small sculpture to support one of her charity auctions. Despite the heartbreak that once tore them apart, Liam and Vanessa had found separate roads leading to contentment. No longer bound by regret, they carried each other's influence like a subtle watermark on the pages of their lives. As for Liam, he found a sense of wholeness he never knew before. The million-dollar deals and black-tie galas no longer felt like fleeting validations, but rather facets of a broader, more meaningful existence. Karma had indeed circled back, testing him through betrayal, scandal, and heartbreak. Yet, in enduring those trials, Liam discovered resilience and love that ran deeper than any fortune or fame. From humble beginnings to the pinnacle of success, Liam Davenport's life was shaped by ambition, heartbreak, and, ultimately, redemption. He learned that true wealth isn't measured by bank accounts or glittering ballrooms. It's found in the connections we nurture and the lessons we carry from our past. His journey reminds us that every setback is an invitation to grow stronger, every loss a gateway to unexpected blessings. If this story of love, lost and found, of second chances and personal triumph resonated with you, we invite you to become part of our community. Hit that like button to show your support, share this video with friends who might need a little inspiration, and subscribe to our channel for more tales of hope, drama, and transformation. Your engagement helps us bring you more stories that light up the heart and spark the imagination. Thank you for watching.